Indian and Chinese military officials hold Lieutenant General level talks at Ladakh's Chushul-Moldo border meeting point to discuss the border situation. Diplomatic level talks held yesterday between the two sides ahead of today's meeting, where both the sides had agreed to handle differences through peaceful discussion and not allow them to become disputes. Unlocking underway across the nation. Kerala issues SOP for opening of religious places, shopping malls, restaurants and hotels from the 9th of June. Maharashtra allows opening of shops except malls and showrooms with the odd-even formula. The government offices in Jammu and Kashmir to function with full strength. Air India begins bookings under Phase 3 of the Vande Bharat mission for select destinations in the US, Canada, UK and Europe. Over 1 lakh Indians brought back through 454 flights under the mission. INS Jalashwa starts its third voyage with 700 Indians from the Maldives. President promulgates 2 ordinances with the aim of giving boost to rural India and agriculture. Measures in ordinance will enable barrier-free trade in the agriculture produce and also empower the farmers to engage with sponsors of his choice. Active COVID-19 cases in India rise to 1,15,942 with 1,14,172 recoveries. The global cases continue to spiral up with over 67 lakh cases with fatalities near 4 lakh. Hello and welcome. You're watching Doordarshan News with me, Nancy Kohli. A top story: the Indian and the Chinese military officials are holding Lieutenant General level talks at Ladakh's Chushul-Moldo border meeting point. The border situation is expected to be discussed during the talks. 14 Corps Commander Lieutenant General Harinder Singh is leading the Indian side. Earlier, Joint Secretary East Asia Naveen Srivastav and Director General in the Chinese Ministry of Foreign Affairs Wu Jingao held a meeting via video conference on Friday. The two sides reviewed the state of bilateral relations, including the current developments. In this context, they recalled the consensus reached by the leaders of the two countries that peaceful, stable and balanced relations between India and China will be a positive factor for stability in the current global situation. Both the sides also agreed that in accordance with the guidance provided by the leadership, the two sides should handle their differences through peaceful discussion, bearing in mind the importance of respecting each other's sensitivities, concerns and aspirations and not allow them to become disputes. And let's now go across to our correspondent Ramesh Chandra, who is joining us from Leh on the phone line. Ramesh, those important talks between India and China, what more can you share with us as far as them discussing the border situation is concerned?
The meeting would have been started by now around 10 o'clock or so, because the area where they are meeting is incommunicable. And it is on the Chinese side, the Moldo border post is. So now, between the two armies, the meeting is taking place, that is going on right now. And before the meeting, if you look at for the last 1 week atmosphere, it was quiet. In fact, before that there was some pictures, videos were running around. Now, before the meeting, they made a congenial atmosphere to talk across the table and discuss the issues and to de-escalate the tensions, whatever that is taking place at eastern Ladakh border.
Okay. All right, Ramesh, thanks for joining us and sharing those inputs. Moving on now, in Kerala, places of worship, shrines, shopping malls, hotels, hospitality units, restaurants and offices will be open to public from the 9th of June. These places can open on the 8th of June for cleaning and disinfecting and make arrangements to receive the public from the next day. The Kerala government has decided to follow the standard operating procedures issued by the central government in opening up these places. And apart from the general guidelines, the state government has come out with few additional instructions to be followed at all these public places. According to these guidelines, the distribution of food, refreshments and offertory blessings or prasadam in the place of worship should be avoided. The collection of name and phone number of the persons who come to the places of worship must be done. They should also bring their own pen. The Sabrimala visit will be managed by a virtual queue system with not more than 50 people at one time. A thermal screening will be installed at Nilakal, Pampa and Shanidhanam. The Kerala government has also issued some other guidelines which include work from home should be provided to those living in the containment zones. Lift operators must be present so that everyone does not press the lift buttons. Public offices should make arrangement for submitting grievances online and have a mechanism for answering these complaints online. Malls should also fix the maximum number of people who can be there at a time. They should also record the name and the phone number of the visitors. Online payments should be used at all times. Cinema screens at malls will not open. The plates and glasses served in hotels, restaurants, tea shops and juice shops must be washed in hot water, and restaurants can allow only 50% seating capacity. And in Maharashtra, after nearly 70 days of lockdown, all the markets, market areas and shops except the malls are reopening across the state after the state government eased restrictions. On one day, all shops on one side of the road will stay open, while all the shops on the other side of the road will remain open the next day. The activities related to self-employed people like plumbers, electricians, pest control and technicians are also allowed. In the revised guidelines, the state government has said that the inter-district movement of people shall be allowed. However, no garden, open-air gym and play area equipment will be allowed to operate. In the Union Territory of Jammu and Kashmir, the government offices will function with all the officials and staff, and as per the guidelines of the central government, the employees at high risk like expecting women, elderly and those having underlying medical conditions are being asked to take extra precautions. In addition, the administration has advised them to work from home as much as possible. Moreover, measures to curb the pandemic under the SOP of the Health and Family Welfare Ministry will be strictly complied with in the offices. Now, Air India has opened bookings for 75 additional flights to destinations in the US and Canada, including New York, Newark, Chicago, Washington, San Francisco, Vancouver and Toronto under the third phase of the Vande Bharat mission. Third phase will begin from the 9th of this month till the 30th. Around 60 million hits have been received till 7 in the evening, and 1,700 seats have been sold through website alone in 2 hours. Bookings continue and the tickets are also being issued. Over 1 lakh Indians brought back through 454 flights under the Vande Bharat mission so far. And under the second phase of Operation Samudra Setu, the Indian naval ship INS Jalashwa departed from Malé port on Friday evening with approximately 700 Indian nationals. Immigration and medical checks were carried out before embarkation. Safety guidelines were being strictly adhered to and handling personnel have been provided with full safety gear. The ship is expected to reach Tuticorin by Sunday morning. The evacuated personnel will be disembarked at Tuticorin, Tamil Nadu and entrusted to the care of the state authorities. Now, with this trip, INS Jalashwa will successfully bring back almost 2,700 Indian citizens from the Maldives and Sri Lanka to Indian shores. President Ramnath Kovind has promulgated the 2 ordinances with an aim of giving a boost to rural economy and to help the farmers. These 2 ordinances are the Farmers Produce Trade and Commerce Promotion and Facilitation Ordinance 2020 and the Farmers Empowerment and Protection Agreement on Price Assurance and Farm Services Ordinance 2020. Both the ordinances have been approved by the Cabinet recently. These two ordinances will enable barrier-free trade in agriculture produce and also empower the farmers to engage with the sponsors of his choice. The Union government has promulgated an ordinance to amend Insolvency and Bankruptcy Code. Under it, fresh insolvency proceedings will not be initiated for defaults due to COVID-19 pandemic. The default on repayments from 25th of March, the day when the nationwide lockdown began to curb COVID-19 infections, will not be considered for initiating insolvency proceedings for a certain period of time. A look now at the impact of COVID-19 in India. So far, a total of 1,14,072 patients have been cured of COVID-19. The recovery rate has improved amongst COVID-19 patients. Presently, there are 1,15,942 active cases and all are under active medical supervision. And let's now bring you a story of compassion, kindness and courage by the Indian Army. A unit of Indian Army in the Tenga district of Arunachal Pradesh has rescued a barking deer, which is an endangered species. The patrolling unit observed a deer drowning in the river, and after the deer recovered, it was discovered that the deer was expecting. The army had then handed over the deer to the forest department. Red Cross Society along with the members of the trade union in Bageshwar district of Uttarakhand are raising awareness about COVID-19 among people. As part of Unlock 1.0, shops and businesses are resuming.
Locusts are normally killed using pesticides which are harmful to the environment. Farmers also cannot afford to hire drones. My low-cost machine works on a light bulb which attracts locusts because of its heat. Up to 100 per second can be trapped in this manner, and anywhere up to 1 billion locusts can be killed over a span of 4 days.
The machine is designed to kill more than 70,000 locusts in an hour and up to 1 billion in 4 days. It can be made in a couple of days just at a cost of rupees 11,000. Uday Kumar, who has come up with more than 33 innovations in various categories, says he is ready to make as many units as central and state governments require if they are ready to back his efforts. Vijay Kumar's report, DD News, Salem.
The Union Public Service Commission has released a revised calendar of the examinations. The Commission has held a special meeting to review the prevailing situation due to COVID-19. Now, according to new calendar, the Civil Services preliminary examination will take place on the 4th of October. Earlier, it was scheduled on 31st May. The Commission has also decided to resume personality tests of the remaining candidates of the Civil Services Examination 2019 from 20th July 2020. The opening of lockdown and progressive relaxations being announced by the central government and various states were the important factors in announcing the new calendar. The details of the revised calendar of examinations have also been published on the UPSC website. Former Delhi Police Chief Ved Marwa, who had also served as the Governor of Mizoram, Jharkhand and Manipur, passed away on Friday evening in Goa. He was 87 years old. The Goa Police DGP tweeted to confirm his demise. The tweet read, I quote, "We are deeply saddened at the loss of a great leader of the police force. Shri Ved Marwa, IPS, led the force from the front through difficult times and served as a governor to 3 states. Our thoughts and prayers are with the family," unquote. Moving on now, taking a look at the COVID-19 figures worldwide, the global tally for cases of COVID-19 has risen to more than 67.34 lakh early this morning, with the death toll now increasing to 3,94,887. The US still continues to lead the world with a case toll of over 18.97 lakh and 1,09,143 deaths. Brazil, the new global hotspot, saw cases jump to 6,14,941 and deaths rising to 34,021, while the cases in Russia grew to 4,49,256 and the deaths rose to 5,520. In the UK, the cases rose to 2,84,734 and deaths grew to 40,344, the second highest death toll in the world after the US and the highest total in Europe. The World Health Organization has updated its guidelines to recommend that governments ask everyone to wear a fabric face mask in public areas where there is a risk of transmission of COVID-19 to help reduce the spread of the virus. In its new guidelines, prompted by evidence from studies conducted in recent weeks, the WHO has stressed that face masks were only one of a range of tools that can reduce the risk of viral transmission and should not give a false sense of protection. The WHO's Director General has also warned masks on their own will not protect you from COVID-19. President Jair Bolsonaro has threatened to pull Brazil out of the World Health Organization after the UN agency warned governments about the risk of lifting lockdowns before slowing the spread of COVID-19. A new Brazilian record for daily COVID-19 fatalities pushed Brazil's death toll past that of Italy. Bolsonaro continues to argue for quickly lifting state isolation orders, arguing that the economic costs outweigh the public health risks. Brazil has recorded over 6 lakh confirmed cases of the virus and with the death toll surging past 34,000. More than 3.9 lakh people have died globally from COVID-19 and more than 67 lakh people have been infected by the COVID-19 that causes it following an outbreak that started in Wuhan in China early December. The group of 20 rich and emerging economies has pledged more than $21 billion to fight the COVID-19 and it will be directed towards diagnostics, vaccines, therapeutics and research and development. Saudi Arabia, the current G20 chair, has pledged $500 million to support global efforts to combat the COVID-19 pandemic. In another news, Joe Biden has formally clinched the Democratic presidential nomination for November presidential elections. The former vice president has effectively been his party's leader since his last challenger, Bernie Sanders, ended his campaign in April. But Biden pulled together the 1,991 delegates needed to become the nominee after 7 states and the District of Columbia held presidential primaries on Tuesday. Biden reached the threshold 3 days after the primaries. Biden now has 1,993 delegates with contests still to come in 8 states and 3 U.S. territories. Joe Biden will formally become the party's standard bearer when he is officially nominated in August at the Democratic National Convention. In New York, thousands of protesters chanting slogans of "No justice, no peace" thronged streets in a series of demonstrations against police brutality after the custodial death of George Floyd by a Minneapolis policeman who pressed knee into Floyd's neck. And the protesters in Mexico vandalized buildings and pelted stones at the U.S. Embassy in Mexico City over the arrest of 3 men in a bid to quell anger over the death of Giovanni Lopez, who died in police custody last month. The protest raged up in Mexico after the protest in U.S. over the death of George Floyd. In Mali, thousands of people reached out to the streets of capital Bamako demanding President Ibrahim Boubacar Keita to resign over his mishandling of the many crises plaguing the West African nation, including the COVID-19 pandemic and the security crisis. Keita had vowed to tackle Mali's security problems after his re-election in 2018. Worldwide, the 2020 graduating class endured disruption in their final months of study. Now, with little notice, they adapted to a new reality of distant learning as social distancing guidelines were enforced in light of COVID-19. Unable to hold a conventional graduation ceremony, the Canadian University in Dubai displayed the faces of its graduates on the iconic Burj Khalifa. Graduates gathered at the foot of the tallest building in the world to save their images after the traditional ceremony was cancelled due to the COVID-19 pandemic. In some other news now, it is critical to follow good hygiene practices such as physical distancing, wearing masks, avoiding spitting in public places, and the regular use of clean toilets. We should inculcate these habits in our daily lives as we are moving towards the new normal. Here's a video to know more.
स्वच्छता और साफ सफाई बीमारियों से दूर रहने और समाज के स्वास्थ्य के लिए बहुत जरूरी है। वर्तमान समय में कोरोना वायरस महामारी के चलते सावधानी बरतना और इन 5 साफ आदतों का पालन करना और आवश्यक हो गया है। हमेशा शौचालय का इस्तेमाल करें और शौचालय को साफ रखें। दिन में कई बार अपने हाथ साबुन से 20 सेकंड तक अच्छे से धोएं। किसी भी सार्वजनिक जगह पर ना थूकें। पीने के पानी को साफ और सुरक्षित जगह पर ढक कर रखें। घर से बाहर या काम पर जाते समय हमेशा मास्क पहनें और दूसरों से पर्याप्त दूरी बनाए रखें। इन 5 साफ आदतों का पालन करें। स्वच्छ रहें, स्वस्थ रहें।
And with that, it's a wrap on this newscast. Thanks for being with us.